A simple, snazzy intro song for small press and poets. Rhythm and rhyme. Welcome to this slice of YouTube that I call home. I'm Tabitha Dial, and this is Creative Divination. Today we're going to do this with a little bibliomancy twist, using a book that recently came out from Workhorse Literary Community. But before we do that, a little bit about me. Again, I'm Tabitha Dial of North Star Muse, and I want everyone to create their fate. I'm a tarot and tea leaf reader in Lexington, Kentucky. I also write my own books, and I'm a poet. I love to cosplay as Trelawney from Hogwarts whenever I get the chance. And I have a book coming out in the spring of 2020 that's a Cheese Astrology Oracle Almanac, and it has a deck that is sure to pair very nicely with it. So, what is bibliomancy? Very quickly, it is turning to a random page in a book and letting either a sentence or, in this case, a poem speak to the question or the intent that's being asked beforehand. So, I'm gonna open this book that I had ordered a while ago and was kind of tied into my previous bibliomancy video, but it hadn't been released yet. It was a pre-order, so here it is now. Very nice. It looks beautiful from the back. Ah, the rainy season. Eduardo Ballestero. That is a really cool image. All right, so I decided after my first bibliomancy video that what I want to do is let the first poem I find speak towards what it is that this book wants to show us. So I'm going to ask that higher power in the universe help guide this reading, offer clear insight, and give us courage to use the poetry as appropriate at this time. We ask with respect and gratitude for every day. It's going to be The Hen on page 26. The Hen. My brother told me a story after he came back from spending a few days on the farm with our abuelos. There was a mother turkey who'd recently hatched several eggs. One day she went to collect food for her chicks and never returned. Abuelita said the jaguar probably found it and made a meal of its meat and feathers. So the chicks went hungry, crying all day for their departed mother, until, as nature often does, one of Abuelita's hens rounded up the mother turkey's chick and sat on them, taking them in as her own. Weeks she spent raising the chicks, feeding them, keeping them warm and safe under her soft feathers, until the chicks grew into Toms and Jennies and would no longer respond to the hen's calls, because the sound of her chicken voice calling them, telling them to come home, no longer made sense to the creatures they'd become. Wow. So the hen took in the turkey eggs and fostered them, kept them safe, and they could no longer connect to that mother figure because of their differences and their distance. So this book wants to help us understand through this divination tool what it is to be fostered and nurtured and to develop and accept disconnect. So the question is, I suppose, how do we accept disconnect? How nice, that's our next question. So I wanted to read 3 total. So let's go further. How do we best accept disconnect? Yep, I feel it's gonna be this one. All right, it's a three-parter, guys. I love those kinds with the little Roman numerals. I like to do that myself. All right, Ode to Platanar, Platanar. 1. I have seen the blue hortensias growing outside the residences on your verdant slopes. Que lindas, said my aunt. 2 days ago she asked if she could pray for me to find a wife. I did not have the heart to tell her, when I marry, I won't have a wife. And I remembered what Jones said to Bob in Mad Men. I want love, and I'd rather die hoping that it happens than make an arrangement. I have felt this way all my life. 2. I have felt the sharp winds that blow on your heights at all the times of day, seen the horse and cattle pastures that pepper your mountainside, seen your visage breaking above clouds from the cathedral of San Carlos Borromeo, and watched fog move among your trees at night. I have been told the stories of your strange lights. I have stories too. I have known their power all my life. 3. I have heard the many-pitched bird calls in your morning hours, and have heard the night song of the insects and frogs in El Rio Santa Fe, and have listened to the hypnotic sound of rushing water while standing on its bridge in daylight. I have seen the city lights of Ciudad Quesada from the road at night. I pray you keep your slumber, remain still, let those who live under your stretching shadow dwell, fed by the fruits of your dark soil, humbled by the sight of your summit, mountain they'll never climb. So how we deal with disconnect. I love the repetition of the lines of how I have felt this way all my life. I have known their power all my life. And then finally in the third part, the ending line, mountain they'll never climb. So how we accept disconnect is getting to pinpoint finality, or the absolutes, the things that are our roots. Even though the last image is this wonderful mountain near the city lights, or where you can see the city lights, I get that soil, that dark soil, humbled by the sight of your summit. And maybe because I've recently, been around trees, or I've felt connected to the trees, I'm feeling the disconnect. How we can handle that relates to roots. So not everybody has mountains. I was lucky enough to come from a region of the United States where we are known for our mountains, and that is Colorado, the Rocky Mountains. So, okay, what's our biggest obstacle? Using the metaphor of the mountain is going to be our conclusion for our little bibliomancy. So, what is our biggest mountain? And a little clue I think we're going to get in this poem as to how to overcome said mountain. Ha! Came back to the hen, but on the other side is in Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, they are building my father's house. They send grainy video they take on phones we'd call ancient. Then get by on less over there. They have not become as materialistic as us. When it's done, we'll have a family home. It's a dream my father's had a long time. He talks about when he's gone sometimes. He says we can keep the house or sell it. I don't want to sell it. I don't want to live in a world without him. Not yet. Not for a long time. He had a stroke in January. We've been worried ever since. Probably a bit too much. My age presses on me. I am older now than when my parents had me. I've never had a boyfriend. I have a job, not a career. My father taught for 25 years in Costa Rica. He taught another 24 in Kentucky. I am an inconsistent poet. I haven't told him enough how grateful I am. I want kids someday. I want them to get to know him. Despite my flaws, he supports me, cares enough to let me make mistakes, never pressures or judges me. He's like this with all his children. If there were a saint for fatherhood, he'd be it. So our mountain, our obstacle, does relate to how we see our fathers. I'm going to pull from, it's always easy to look at that last line, but I'm going to pull both from that first line and the last line. So that first line is, they're building my father's home. Wow. That's a good initial line for almost anyone to play with. It's a nice little poetry prompt right there. So our mountain, our obstacle is, I mean, maybe in a way letting go of power because they are building my father's home, but also the creative task of how we can shelter our fathers, however we want to interpret the meaning of a father. And then the last line is, if there were a saint for fatherhood, he'd be it. So the obstacle there might be how we view our fathers. So I would mull on those two concepts as maybe those are our current obstacles to encounter in our own lives. Thank you so much for being here and watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit the old like and subscribe buttons. And special thanks to everyone out on Patreon who are also supporting this. Please let me know about any of your favorite poetry experiences on any of my social media handles. The links will be below. And thanks for watching. Take care, and remember to create your fate.